we just saw Star Trek Beyond. Yeah, that's what it was called.
Yes, that's what it was called.
So, what are your quick thoughts about the movie?
So, I guess, we're not going into spoilers yet.
Yeah, no spoilers now.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I have some complaints about it, of course.
Oh,
but,
me too. Yeah.
But I do feel like it's the best one of the three.
Of the new trilogy?
Of the new trilogy. And the reason for it is that the first one was good, but it was all about getting the crew together and getting the ship and this and that. And it wasn't until the very end that you actually felt like it was Star Trek.
Yeah.
And the second one was a complete train wreck, just taking a shit all over my childhood. So there's that. So this is the first one that actually felt like
did something by itself.
Yeah, it was its own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my thoughts on it. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It wasn't amazing.
No, it wasn't amazing, and there were reasons for that. But I mean, as far as my expectations of it, compared to the first two movies, I'm good with this one.
Yeah. I thought it was okay. Like I said, it wasn't amazing. It's not like you're going to walk in and you're going to get the same feeling as going to see the Star Wars Episode 7 when that came out.
Yeah, that one was better than this. Yeah.
That was better than a lot of things. But it was still pretty good. It was a good Star Trek movie. I think if you liked the first two, you're going to like this one. Because, it's got a similar tone. But I did think it was pretty good. Yeah. Also, one thing that I liked how they did pay tribute to the two people that they lost in the past year.
Yes.
Yeah, because Nimoy was gone.
At the end,
Nimoy passed away last year, or was that this year?
No, it was last year.
Okay, last year. But then the guy who played Chekhov passed away like a month ago.
Which, by the way, I did read they're not going to recast that, which I think is probably
better
for
not.
the best. So,
yeah. Okay, so we gave quick thoughts. I don't think there's anything else we can think of right now. So we're gonna do spoiler reviews now. I'll give you 5 seconds to leave before we spoil the movie. 5, 4, 3, 2. 1. Okay.
Yeah, you're pretty generous there with the countdown. That's 5 seconds is a long time.
Whatever. So what are some spoiler things that you wanted to get on?
Well, okay, so like it mentioned on the way there, the thing that I thought was going to happen happened.
Which was?
The Enterprise being destroyed.
Is that what happened in Star Trek 3?
Star Trek 3, the Enterprise was sacrificed. They self-destructed it. It was already going to be decommissioned. It was pretty bad shape after the Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
But yeah, they ended up destroying the Enterprise to destroy. Spoiler alert, by the way, for Star Trek 3.
Yeah, we're going to spoil a lot of Star Trek things. We already spoiled Into Darkness, and now we're going to spoil Beyond, and we're going to spoil Star Trek.
But anyway, they destroyed the Enterprise in the third one, and then they, at the end of the fourth movie, the Voyage Home, that was when they got the Enterprise A, which was exactly what they did with this one as well.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it was destroyed completely different way, so that was good.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. It wasn't. They weren't just trying to do Star Trek 3.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't do Star Trek 3 in any way.
But they had some other callbacks to it though, like the what was the name of the base? The Yorktown.
Yeah, Yorktown.
Yeah, that was very clearly at the beginning a callback to the space station in Star Trek 3 at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the ways that things were shot from the inside of it and looking out at the ship, and that I felt was a pretty big callback. There were other callbacks too, like random things, like when Scotty was talking about the Franklin, was that the name of the old ship? The Franklin being stolen by a big giant green hand. That's in the original series, and then
I was gonna say that got a laugh out of a lot of people.
Yeah,
that's from, and they did that. Yeah, they had that in the after credits too.
Oh, did they have that?
Yeah,
I didn't see the hand.
When they were doing all the space stuff, there was one little part where it was a green hand sticking out of nowhere.
That's a callback, and the other, the one that really stuck out with me, I don't know how many people in there really noticed noticed it though, that when Edison was ranting about the things that he had lived through, he did mention the Zindi, which are that was from the 3rd season of Enterprise, which I felt like was a poor series, but that was a very good season of it.
Wait, when the bad guy was complaining about what he lived through?
Yeah, towards the end, remember, he mentioned the Zindi and then the Romulan Wars and things like that, so I like little things like that. My big problem with the movie, predictably, is it's still too action-oriented.
Oh yeah, I agree. There was a lot of action in the movie.
And this one was actually maybe even worse than the first two, because the first two had their ridiculous action scenes. So like the first one, when they're trying to stop Vulcan from being destroyed, and there's that whole cord that's going down to the
sword
planet.
Fighting.
And the sword. And then in the darkness, the equivalent to that, I guess, was when Kirk and Khan were traveling between Khan's ship and the Enterprise, and there's that whole sequence. And I thought this one was going to be when they flipped the saucer over, and it was just a whole bunch of superfluous action, and no one. I mean, it goes beyond belief too, because you're not going to survive that. It takes all the danger out of it, because no one's going to survive that, but of course they do.
Yeah.
And then there was more of it towards the end once they got back to Yorktown. And that.
My biggest complaint was the first, I'd say probably 30 minutes, was just a giant action scene. Because they did get into, they kind of revisited all the characters, so we made sure we knew who was who. And then once the Enterprise left Yorktown, it was just an action scene for what felt like 20 minutes.
Well, see, I actually didn't mind that, and here's the reason why, is because as much as I do talk about not liking like the destruction porn towards the end in the Yorktown and all the action sequences, I have always been a sucker for eviscerating starships like they did. So I like that, but I like them getting it out of the way at the beginning, because then we can just focus on, okay, we're trapped on this planet. And now it's something different entirely.
But it wasn't the action itself that bothered me. It was the length that they spent on it.
Absolutely.
It was way too long of a time spent on them destroying that ship.
Well, and also there's the way the ship was destroyed. There's the callback to Star Trek Generations, where the saucer crashes on the planet. So I feel like maybe they took a little bit of extra time to kind of harken back to that a little bit.
Was Generations the one with Kirk and Picard, or was that Nemesis?
No, that was Kirk and Picard.
Okay. I thought so.
Because the Enterprise D is destroyed near the end of that, and that's what happens to the saucer. I didn't mind that so much, but a lot of the stuff later in the movie just drug on and on with the action sequences, and it's like, okay, we get it, we want to make it a spectacle, fine, but let's focus on the story here a little bit.
One thing that I had a problem with was they took so long to put some motivation behind their villain, and when they did put it there, it was garbage.
And it was not fleshed out.
It was not fleshed out.
I would have liked to have taken away some of the action sequences, and kind of dig deeper into what happened to that crew, what happened to Edison, what is the weapon, really? We never really know what the weapon is.
I completely agree, because Idris Elba, the guy who plays Crawl was his name?
Yeah, Crawl.
Crawl or Edison or whatever his name was, but he is a really, really good actor, and they didn't use him for shit.
Apparently he was on the short list to play the Doctor at one point, I think.
He's on the everyone wants him to play James Bond.
Yeah, that is him, yeah.
Everyone wants him to play James Bond, and it completely makes sense.
Yeah, they really didn't use him.
But, yeah, they took way too long to put something behind him, and that was something that I was sitting through the movie, and I was like, why haven't they given him any motivation? I was actually starting to detest the movie about, I'd say, 3/4 of the way through, because I was like, there's no reason for him doing this. He's just doing this because fuck you. That is his entire motivation as of right now.
And normally I would have felt the same, but I think at this point, the way the new movies have gone, I'm just grateful that it's But yeah, definitely that's probably my biggest complaint with the story itself is we really didn't get into any of that backstory, what happened, because that could be very interesting, couldn't it? What happened to that?
What happened to him? And they could have gone into what was going on with that girl.
Jalen.
Yes.
Yeah. And her father and all of that, like they had kind of called out.
They were like, yeah, he died, and then that was the end of that. Pretty much. She was fighting the henchman, and he was like, "You're gonna die like your father." I was like, "What the fuck does this have to do with anything?"
Well,
I highly doubt that he remembers her father. First of all, second of all, we didn't even. There's no reason for us to care about him saying that since we don't know anything about her father.
And we never went back to it either. But we couldn't go back to it because we had to have another 45 minutes of action on the Yorktown. But now I was trying to look at the credits, but I was actually sort of distracted by that guy who just had the gall to just stand up at the end and just stand there reading his phone.
Yeah.
But I was trying to look in the credits to see, I can't pronounce her name, but the Commodore, I believe, is one of the actresses on The Expanse, and she's very good on The Expanse. If that's her,
wait,
sounds like her.
Is that the girl who played who?
The Commodore.
Who's the Commodore?
The lady that Kirk was trying to get the promotion with.
Yeah.
I forget her name, but they said she was the Commodore. I assumed she was an admiral up until that point. But yeah, I really like her. If that's her, and I can't pronounce the actress's name.
Yeah.
But she's very good in The Expanse. If you haven't watched The Expanse, that's a very good watch.
Yeah, I'll just add that to my giant ass list of TV shows.
Well, the nice thing with that is it's only in one season. The second season doesn't come out until next year, and it's 9 episodes, but the last one is a double episode, so it's really 10.
Okay.
It's worth a watch.
Yeah.
But anyway, I noticed her, and I really like her in there.
Yeah.
And I hope that's her, and I'm not just talking out of my ass.
And two things I was going to bring up. First of all is when this movie was, a little bit before it was released, so I'd say probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was this big controversy because Simon Pegg, who's co-wrote the movie, he's like, yeah, we're going to make Sulu gay. And the way they did it, the film was really, really subtle. It wasn't like, oh, hey, look, he's gay, and they were like pointing it out to where it identified the character.
They weren't bending each other over the helm.
Literally. But they did show it, and I think they did a good job of it. But George Takei, the guy who played Sulu in the original series, did not like the fact that they were doing that. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I'm really not sure why George Takei doesn't like. I mean, I've read what he said about it. I don't know that much about Gene Roddenberry and the way that that he viewed the future and whatnot. I mean, I only know from what we see on the show.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why he's got such a problem with it. But then again, at the same time, he is George Takei.
He's allowed to have a problem.
So he's allowed to have a problem with it. I don't know. I think very clearly it's a tribute to him.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not sure why.
That's what the point was.
Got such a problem with it, but I'm sure he's got very good reasons.
Well, I think the reasoning behind it, one of the reasons that Takei said was he said that it was a character that was already established, and they shouldn't be like changing things just to.
Well, but they've changed so much.
I know that, and that's the argument that Simon Pegg said. He was like, okay, first of all, this isn't going to be the defining characteristic for him.
No.
It's just going to be in addition to his story arc. Secondly, they haven't exactly explored that in the new universe.
And well, frankly, and unless I'm just not remembering something, I don't know that they ever even established original Sulu as straight to begin with.
I don't know.
I just don't know that aspect of his life has ever come up. So I don't know really. I don't feel like that's changing anything. If anything, the way that they've treated Spock and the emotions and getting it on with Uhura, that's been a much bigger change.
Yeah, that was something that I didn't realize I didn't like until this movie. Because in the first two, I didn't really watch Star Trek. I didn't have a lot of knowledge. And now after watching the original series, minuscule rate that I have watched it, I do have a problem with the fact that Uhura and Spock are in a relationship.
I've kind of gotten used to it. I think at this point in the first movie, I was not a big fan of that.
Yeah, I can
that's
only
too
imagine.
much at once here.
I can only imagine. Yeah,
way too much.
And the second thing I was going to get into was, so since we're 3 movies into this new series, and you are a big fan of the original series, what are the characters that they have redone that do well in the new movie?
Oh God,
or in the movies? Yeah, I agree. I love Bones in this movie.
Spot on.
He's one of my favorite characters in the original series, and I think he's really good in the movies too.
I've never heard anyone talk like that.
Yeah.
Really? So I think he's my favorite as far as getting it right.
He's a pretty good actor too. He was in Lord of the Rings, and one movie that he was in, if you want to see that actor just kind of shoot stuff for a good hour and a half, he was in a movie called Dredd, which was a adaptation of the comic book Judge Dredd, and it's actually really good.
Yeah. I mean, I've not seen him in anything else. I don't really know, but as far as playing McCoy, I think he's spot on.
Yeah, I think he's perfect for McCoy. One person that I also like, because in the original series, I don't really like Scotty. That's maybe just because I haven't really watched him enough. But I love Simon Pegg. So
yeah, I think he's fine. I do like original Scotty better.
Yeah,
I think. I don't know. I feel like the new Scotty's maybe a bit too much comedy.
Yeah, well, that's Simon Pegg is kind of he's more of a comedic actor. So I mean, it kind of makes sense for him to do that. Yeah.
And I think, particularly in this movie, new Kirk is more Kirk-like to me than in the previous.
Yeah, in the previous 2, do you think you like him more than Shatner?
No, but that's only by default. And I'm not the hugest fan of Bill Shatner himself.
There are a lot of people that are not the biggest fan of William Shatner.
But as far as his Kirk, I mean, that is Kirk, and everything else is really trying to imitate it. So I feel like in this movie, maybe he seems a little bit more Kirk-like.
Yeah. And what about Spock, Uhura, and Sulu?
Uhura is too much of a Xena the Warrior Princess in the newer ones.
Yeah.
We're not. I don't feel like we're seeing enough of her linguistic skills and things like that. Spock, obviously, I mean, he does a very good job, but predictably, I do feel like he is doing too much emotion. He's too emotional.
Yeah, I
and I don't think that's his fault. I think that's just the direction. That's the way they want to go with it.
Yeah. That is a big problem with
Sulu is. He's pretty spot on too, I guess. With the original series, you've probably noticed that the ancillary characters aren't as big of a deal as they are in these newer movies. It really wasn't, I feel like, until maybe Star Trek 3, really, that those extra characters had the biggest part, as big a part as the 3, the Kirk, Spock, McCoy. So it's kind of hard to tell.
And that's funny for me, because when I went into the series, I always thought that Sulu was one of the main characters of the TV show.
No, he's really not.
Yeah, he's not at all. It's the main characters are Spock, McCoy, and Kirk.
Yeah, they're the credited ones, and then everyone else is also starring.
Yeah.
Now with original Sulu, I feel like he really came into his own, really as Captain Sulu.
And that was in 3.
That's in 6.
Oh, 6.
Captain Sulu of the Excelsior. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
Which I was kind of just hoping a little bit that we might get the Excelsior in this one.
Oh, we got 3 more movies.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna see some Excelsior action.
They're gonna flesh this out until it stops making money.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
which really, I mean, to me, I'm kind of hoping we move away from the movies being a big thing, and I hope that the new series is a big
because they're coming out with a new series when?
January.
January, okay.
Yeah.
Have they announced any casting?
No, they haven't.
They
but
just
we
said
know
that
that it's
they're
going to be
doing a series.
13 episode and it's going to be one story arc.
Yeah. And I heard Netflix is actually going to be streaming it.
Well, they're going to carry it, as far as I know, internationally. The first run in the United States is going to be CBS All Access, but it will run on CBS after that as well. Yeah, the thing that I like about series, though, is that they tend to not have the kind of budget to just make it all action.
Yeah.
So you end up with more story and more time to become invested.
And see, that's good as long as they have a good writer. Because if they have a shit writer, then...
Well, I think the showrunner, I forget which one is the showrunner.
For the new one?
Yeah, but I mean, he's a big-time Star Trek series guy. I think Nicholas Meyer is going to be involved in it if he's not the showrunner. I don't think he's the showrunner, but Nicholas Meyer is the one that he's responsible for Star Trek 2, 3, 4, 6.
The original ones?
The good ones.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, with that team involved, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, and there was one last thing that I did want to point out that I thought this was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. So at the end of the movie, after everything's done, everything's kind of resolved, they go into they show the scene of Spock, because Ambassador Spock, the original Spock, is dead.
Yeah.
And they go into a scene where, like, new Spock is holding a box of old Spock's stuff.
Yeah.
And I really like that scene where he pulled out, like, I don't even know what it was, but he, like, opened it up and there was a picture of the original cast. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. That was one of the promo photos from Star Trek 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say that looked like a picture either from a movie, because it definitely wasn't from the TV show.
No, that's movie era. I'm pretty sure it's Star Trek 5 at that point. You can kind of tell from the way the ship looks in the background. It's not quite Star Trek 6.
Yeah.
But it is the Enterprise A, and Uhura had that. She had that like gray streak thing going on in her hair at the time.
Wasn't 5 the one that Shatner directed and it was garbage?
I mean, it was garbage.
Yeah, and then 4 was the one that Nimoy directed.
Yeah, and that one was fantastic.
Yeah.
In fact, he directed 3 and 4, I believe.
He did? I thought he only directed 4.
No, I'm pretty sure. If anything, I'm more sure that he directed 3.
Because all that I know is that Shatner directed 5 and it was...
Yeah. Well, I think he decided he was going to get his shot at it. The thing with 3, though, was that it didn't have very much Spock.
Yeah.
Right, because it was the search for Spock, so he was able to kind of step away and direct.
And I mean, it's kind of expected for Shatner to do that, because, I mean, his ego is goddamn
Well, there you
giant.
go. There you go. It's the Shatner ego.
Man, I didn't know how much of an ass he was until I was, like, looking through some of the stuff on IMDb about Star Trek. He required it in his contract that his name was 10% bigger in text than the rest of the cast. That is bullshit. That is such a petty thing.
That's the best description. Is it
for
petty.
him to be specific about.
Mm-hmm.
Goddamn stupid. Oh man. So yeah, that's our review of Star Trek Beyond. It's a pretty good movie. Go see it if you like the other Star Treks. If you don't go see it. I mean, pretty obvious
it's
there.
one that you like it, but you're not necessarily ready to just go out and see it again.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Okay. This was Draft House Drive. Brett is gone. I still can't remember what he's saying. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're done. Bye.
We're done. Bye.